Hey everyone, welcome back to Kill Jester, and I'm your host, Chase Daniel. And today we dive into the second half of the Gus Lamont missing child case out of South Australia and the interview of Gus's grandmother, Josie Murray. In part one, we went through 6 clips from Josie Murray's spotlight interview and found a real, repeated pattern, an account that spent far more time on property, procedure, and peripheral detail than on fear for Gus himself in the moment he vanished. Today, 6 more clips, and this time we're right in the middle of it. This is where Josie directly addresses being named a person of interest by South Australia police. Same method as always, her own words, line by line, nothing added, nothing skipped. Same disclaimer as part one because it matters just as much here. No one has been charged in this case. Josie Murray is presumed innocent. This is language analysis, not a verdict. Let's get into the first clip with Gus's grandmother, once again, Josie Murray.
Have police told you that you're a main suspect in the case of Gus's disappearance?
They've said that they don't think I hurt him, they think that I buried him. That's one of the theories they're working on. And as I say, that's for so many reasons it's ludicrous. It just, doesn't make sense. Why would you do that to yourself when you know that, okay, if he'd had an accident, you'd just go, well, you know, as much as we hate it and everything, you know, he's had an accident, right, you know, we've got to deal with it.
Gus was who you were going to hand over the farm to eventually.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing why it's ludicrous. I mean, why would a 70-year-old like myself and like Shan be working, which we are. I tend to probably work close to 70 hours a week. I don't stop for weekends or anything. I just keep working every daylight hour there is. Why would I do that at this age if I don't intend to try and handle the property over to Jess and the 2 boys in the best possible condition I can do it?
So let's go through this line by line. The reporter asked directly, have police told you that you're a main suspect in the case of Gus's disappearance? Josie's answer, they have said that they don't think I hurt him. They think that I buried him. That's one of the theories they're working on. Notice this opening specifically. They don't think I hurt him. That's Josie's reporting police's alleged position, not her denial. She hasn't yet said a single word here about what she believes happened. And that's for many reasons it's ludicrous. It just doesn't make sense. Ludicrous is a strong word, but notice it's aimed at the theory as a concept, not stated as I did not do this. Why would you do that to yourself when you know that, okay, if he'd had an accident, you just go, well, you know, as much as we hate it and everything, he's had an accident, right? We've got to deal with it. This is genuinely striking piece of reasoning. She's constructing a hypothetical or an accident happened and arguing that in that certain scenario, the honest move would simply be to accept it and deal with it, implying that covering it up would be needlessly self-destructive. That's an argument about incentives, not a statement about what actually happened that day. Why would a 70-year-old like myself and like Shan be working, which we are? I tend to probably work close to 70 hours a week. I don't stop for weekends. I just keep working every daylight hour there is. Stop here and stick in the red flag. Instead of a direct denial, she answers a serious accusation with a question about her own age and work ethic. Why would I is doing the work where I did not should be doing the work here, which isn't said. Why would I do that at this age if I don't intend to try and hand the property over to Jess and the 2 boys in the best possible condition that I can do it? And the clip closes at the same rhetorical structure. Another why would I? This time anchored to the farm's future rather than Gus at all. In an answer specifically about suspected or burying her own grandson, the clip ends on succession planning for the property.
And I know that I've been accused of taking him from where he had an accident and died and taking him out and burying him, but to think that I could actually go out there and do something like that, to think that I would be stupid enough to do it, for a start, is ludicrous. And to think that I could face up to the trauma of doing that would also be ridiculous.
And Josie starts us out in clip 2. I know that I've been accused of taking him from where he had an accident and died and taking him out and burying him. Notice how clinically this is stated, almost like she's reading a chargeback sheet rather than reacting to an accusation about her own grandson's death. But to think that I would actually go out there and do something like that, to think that I would be stupid enough to do it from a start, is ludicrous. Listen closely to what's actually being called ludicrous here. Not, I would never do this. The word chosen is stupid, as if the primary objection is that to be a poor strategic decision, not that it's something she wouldn't do. And to think I could face up to the trauma of doing that would also be ridiculous. This is the line we're sitting with the longest in this entire clip. She's not saying the trauma would be too great to cause. She's saying it couldn't personally face up to, psychologically cope with having done it. That's a very different claim than innocence. It's an argument about her own capacity to handle guilt, not a statement that there's no guilt to handle.
There's no way, under those, when it's so dry and dusty like that, there's no way you can bury something without leaving evidence that the ground has been disturbed. And the amount of searching that went on, aerial, with a helicopter, with the fixed wing, with the drones, with everything, you would see signs of someone being buried. I mean, obviously they were thinking about the dam, and I had several neighbours who said to me afterwards it would be, again, ridiculous to think that he'd gone into the dam, because there was a weed all around the dam, and if anything had gone in there, if we'd put him in the dam or if he'd walked into the dam or anything, you would disturb that weed and it'd be damn obvious.
And Josie starts us out in clip 3. There's no way, when it's so dry and dusty like that, there's no way you can bury something without leaving evidence that the ground had been disturbed. Real, specific technical knowledge about how disturbed Earth would show in this exact terrain. That's worth noting on its own, a level of forensic awareness about concealment that goes beyond what most people would casually know. And the amount of searching that went on, aerial, with a helicopter, with the fixed wing, with the drones, with everything, you would see signs of someone being buried. This whole passage does one specific job, ruling out burial on the open property, using the scale of the search itself as the argument. I had several neighbors who said to me afterwards it would be ridiculous to think that he'd gone into the dam because there was weed all around the dam. Notice this in secondhand. Neighbors said to me, rather than her own direct reasoning, on the one specific location where physical evidence might most easily be concealed. And the clip closes. And if anything had gone in there, if we put him in the dam, or if he walked into the dam, you would disturb that weed and it would be damn obvious. Here's what exactly happened across this whole clip, and it's worth naming clearly. She's systematically ruling out two specific disposal methods, burial in the open ground and the dam, with real technical detail for both. What she never does anywhere in this clip is offer any account of what did happen to Gus. Ruling out how a body couldn't be hidden is not the same as explaining where a missing child actually is.
The one that is so laughable is the one that the head of the major lot said that there was only four-wheel drive access to Oak Park, so there was no chance of abduction. And I mean, that's absurd because the Hilux they've taken down there to do tests on is a two-wheel drive. Shan's got a two-wheel drive, Jester's got a two-wheel drive, the buggy's a two-wheel drive. I mean, it's laughable. The other thing that they said was that the footage on the security cameras on the property next door, where you come in from Yunta Road, showed that no one had come out to Oak Park in that time frame. So I identified all the sites, and there was one I wasn't 100% sure of until I got a better view of it, and then I could see the trees, and I said, oh, and that's the one that's on the road in from Yunta at what we call Breakneck Creek. And this bloke said, oh, well, that wasn't working at the time. And I thought, again, lie, because they'd told me that he couldn't have been taken because no one came in and no one showed up on the cameras, and then they tell me the camera wasn't working. So again, just false. There's just been so much of this falseness over all this and mistakes that have been made.
What about the noise? Can you hear cars come in inside your house?
It can be difficult. If it's windy, you're not going to hear them. It's as simple as that. But usually we've got the dogs there on the loose, and they would alert someone if someone else drove into the house. You'd hear them barking. But, of course, we were doing sheep work, so we had all the dogs with us.
So in clip 4, Josie starts this out. The one that is so laughable is the one that the head of the major crime unit said, that there was only 4-wheel drive access to Oak Park. So there's no chance of abduction. That's absurd, because the Hilux they've taken down there to test is a 2-wheel drive. Shan's got a 2-wheel drive. Jess has got a 2-wheel drive. The buggies are 2-wheel drive. Notice the direction of this argument. She's not defending herself here. She's actively arguing for the plausibility of outside abduction, pushing back against a police statement that would make abduction less likely. The other thing they said that was footage on the security cameras on the property next door showed no one had come out to Oak Park in that time frame. I identified all the sites, and there was one at what we call Breakneck Creek. This bloke said, oh, well, that wasn't working at the time. And I thought, again, lie. The word again is doing real work in that sentence, implying a pattern of dishonesty from investigators, not a single incident. Because they told me he couldn't have been taken because no one showed up on the cameras. And then they tell me the cameras wasn't working. So again, just false. There's just been so much faultness all over this, and mistakes have been made. 3 separate uses of false or lie in one short passage, all directed at the people investigating her family. This is real sustained hostility towards law enforcement, and it's worth remembering this pattern once we get into part 2's synthesis, because it echoes something we already flagged in part 1. Then the reporter asks, what about the noise? Can you hear cars come inside your house? Josie, it can be difficult. If it's windy, you're not going to hear them, but usually you've got the dogs out there on the loose. They would alert someone. And the clip closes. But of course you were doing sheep work, so we all had the dogs with us, so just bad luck. Just bad luck closes out explanations for why the one detection system on this entire property, the dogs, happened to be unavailable at exactly the relevant time. That's a real coincidence, presented here without any further comment on how convenient or inconvenient its timing actually was.
Sorry.
Okay. Take as long as you want.
You just suddenly be hit by the horror, the enormity of this, and Jess probably more so. But Jess is not quite so prone to talk about it, particularly to me, if you like. But yeah, it's just, and then to be accused of doing something like this is just, you could not wish a more horrible experience on anyone.
Does it just break your heart?
And I guess we live in the hope that this is a benign abduction and he's still out there somewhere, and it just some stages, hopefully soon someone's going to see him and go right and notify the authorities. And yeah, it's to go from living a quiet time up there, which is what I've said to a lot of people, that we tend to have a quiet time up there, away from all the nonsense that goes on in the rest of the world, and then to have something thrust on us like this is, yeah, I cannot describe how we feel about it.
So this clip opens differently. The reporter, visibly affected herself, says, "The pressure this family has been under, the toll that it's taken, is unfathomable. Sorry." There's a pause. "Take as long as you want." So Josie's response to that, "You'd just suddenly be hit by the horror, the enormity of this, and just probably more so. But Jess is not quite so prone to talk about it, particularly to me, if you like. This is where the tears come, and I want to be fair about it. This reads as real, visible emotion, not performed. But yeah, it's just, and then to be accused of doing something like this is just, you could just not wish a more horrible experience on anyone." Now listen closely to what the emotion is actually about. Not losing Gus is the worst thing that's ever happened to us. The horrible experience being named in this exact emotional moment is being accused. The reporter asks, "Does it just break your heart?" And here's the pivot. "And I guess we live in the hope that this is a benign abduction and he's still out there somewhere." In the very next breath, after describing the pain of being accused, she states the abduction theory as her own personal belief and hope. Not "we just don't know what happened," but a specific named theory delivered with real conviction in the same emotional beat as her own distress about suspicion. And at some stage, hopefully soon, someone's going to see him and notify the authorities. To go from living a quiet time up there, which is what I've said to a lot of people, away from all the nonsense that goes on in the rest of the world, and then to have something thrust on us like this, yeah, I cannot describe how we feel about it. And the clip closes there. How we feel about it, once again, is the most emotionally raw moment of either interview. The final words land on the family's own experience of this ordeal, not on Gus.
What would your message be to the public and to authorities now?
Keep looking for any sign that a child is Gus. Don't take any notice of his hair. His hair is his crowning glory, but it's also the thing that everyone remembers about him the most, and you have to take that hair away from that face and look at that face. And if I just saw the eyes of Gus, I would know him instantly, because it's the way you are.
Do you think?
And in the sixth clip and final, the reporter asks, "What would your message be to the public and authorities now?" This is her one chance on camera to say anything she wants to the people who might actually be able to help find Gus, or to whoever might be responsible. Her answer: keep looking for any sign that a child is Gus. Don't take any notice of his hair. His hair is his crown glory, but it's also the thing that everyone remembers him about the most. You have to take their hair away from that face and look at that face. And if I just saw the eyes of Gus, I would know him instantly, because it's the way you are. That's the entire message. Read it again slowly. It's about how to visually recognize Gus if someone sees him. It is not addressed to whoever may have taken him, and it's not addressed to whoever may know something and hasn't come forward. In the one moment she's handed a direct microphone to the public and to investigators, the message is entirely about a face and hairstyle, not a single word aimed at the person or people who might actually hold the answer. So let's put this all together, all 6 clips, and see what it shows us. Well, one, asked directly about the suspicion, she answers with rhetorical questions about her age and work ethic rather than a flat denial. Two, the burial theory gets called ludicrous and stupid, but the actual act itself is never factually denied anywhere in either clip. Real specific technical details gets marshaled to rule out burial and the dam, while the disappearance itself stays completely unexplained. 4. Direct repeated accusations that police lied to her. I thought again, lie, a real sustained pattern of hostility towards investigators. Visible, genuine emotion arrives while describing the toll of being accused and pivots directly into stating the abduction theory as personal belief in the very same breath. 6. The most direct message to the public and to authorities is entirely about recognizing Gus's face, not one word directed at whoever may actually be responsible. And I want to be responsible about this as well. No one has been charged. Josie Murray is presumed innocent. This is language analysis, not a verdict a court has reached. Now, I want to step back and give you my honest, full opinion, having gone through both interviews this closely. 12 clips, 2 separate interviews, not once, not one single time, anywhere in either interview does Josie say the sentence a truly innocent person doesn't have to search for. I did not hurt Gus, or I did not dispose of Gus. Instead, we get ludicrous, we get ridiculous, we get why would I, we get at my age, every possible version of a denial except the one that actually denies the act. Layer that onto everything else we found across both parts of this series, an account that consistently centers property and procedure over fear for the child himself. A 2.5-hour gap between Gus going missing and the call to police, explained only as a question that was raised, an abduction theory formed before any organized search even started, and defended with real technical detail throughout both interviews. Genuine sustained anger directed at investigators, and a closing public message that never once speaks to whoever might actually be responsible for what happened to him. And one more thing worth adding here, and it's generally my own working theory on this whole case. Given everything we walked through in part 1, the vastness of that property, a 4-year-old routinely unsupervised across acres of real documented hazards, I think the far more likely scenario is that Gus met with some kind of accident on that property, not deliberate harm from anyone. But here's what makes me pause. Listen again to how specifically her language rules things out. She never argues that nothing happened to Gus out there. She argues in real technical detail that a body couldn't be successfully hidden there. Undisturbed ground, undisturbed weed. That's not the same defense as he was never hurt here. And the very first thing this family did within minutes of noticing him missing was check a known hazard specifically for blood. If something did happen to Gus on that property, an accident, exactly the kind this whole case has shown was entirely possible. The real question isn't whether Josie caused it, it's whether in the panic afterward, evidence of it was ever hidden rather than reported. So let's bring this back into our own lives like we do and use statement analysis in our interactions with others. Well, 1, learn the actual shape of a real denial and notice what it's missing. That's ludicrous, and I did not do it are not the same sentence. Rhetorical questions and doesn't sound credible can stand in for a denial without ever actually being one. 2, real emotion and a self-serving pivot can happen in a very same breath. Genuine tears don't rule out strategies sitting right next to them. Notice when someone moves towards immediately after the emotion. That's often where their real priority actually is. 3, watch for technical detail used to rule out the easy explanations, while the hard question stays completely untouched. Explaining in detail why one specific theory is impossible is not the same as explaining what actually happened. And 4, notice when a closing message is actually for a final word that speaks only to recognizing a face and never to whoever may be responsible tells you something real about where a person's focus actually sits. That closes out the series of the Josie Murray statement analysis and the Gus Lamont missing child case, guys. Thanks for watching. Gus Lamont is still missing. Somewhere out there is the truth, and we genuinely hope it surfaces for his sake and for everyone still waiting on answers, including his parents, who have never been suspected of anything in this case. If this series meant something to you, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share it with someone who wants to follow this case. Proof in the fog. I'll see you in the next one.